Welcome to Godly Ascendance Podcast, a platform where we give you insightful godly wisdom so you can rise, lead, and dominate. We would love to hear from you. Leave a comment or send us a voice note on WhatsApp at +265 887 115 964. Here are some amazing comments from our previous episodes.
Salamu kwa wasikilizaji wote. Jina langu ni Edward, listening to the Godly Ascendance podcast from Nairobi, Kenya. I've loved this podcast so much. Now 2 episodes in. Can't wait for more episodes. I loved the recent episode on building a valuable skill. It was just a good reminder to me as a professional that my value in the marketplace is directly proportional to my contribution of the skill and talent that I have. That means if I don't put in the work on my skill, my value will go down. So that's just a good reminder. Thank you so much. Looking forward to more.
Muliuli. My name is Favor Mlooka. I am the founder of Favor's Chili. I am based in Lilongwe, Malawi. I really enjoyed this podcast on building valuable skill. What stood out for me was that we need to find the right audience that will value our skill. You know, sometimes we feel like we don't have something valuable, we don't have something great to offer or to bring on the table, but it's because we have exposed ourselves to the wrong audience. So this was very encouraging to say that as I navigate around my career, my profession, my business, I need to make sure that I place myself in the right place. And then I was also encouraged by creating a perception of value by how I carry myself confidently. So there was a point that said the way we carry ourselves out is how people will respect us or how people will value us. So that was also another encouraging point to say that I need to make sure that I'm very conscious of how I carry myself out and how I place myself around people. And then the last one was about how we need to build a relationship with God. And the scripture that was used there was how will it benefit a man if he gains the whole world but loses his own soul? So it's true that it's pointless and meaningless to accumulate all the wealth that we can in the world, but in the end lose our own soul. So at the end of the day, our starting point should be in God, and the rest of the things will follow. Thank you very much.
Now, enjoy today's episode with Mike Mkali.
Hi, Muribwanji. Thank you so much, Edward and Favor, for the feedback. By the way, to our dear listeners, that's Swahili, a greeting from Kenya, and the other greeting that was Tumbuka from northern part of Malawi. Fun fact, Tumbuka is estimated to be spoken by around 10 million people from Malawi, Tanzania, Zambia, and part of Zimbabwe. On the other hand, around 200 million people speak Swahili, mainly Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, and Rwanda. For your information, Swahili serves as an official language of African Union, SADC, and East African countries. Kiswahili is more than a language. It is a vessel of African identity, unity, and culture. So, to Edward, asante sana, and to Favor, tawonga chomene. What language do you speak? Next time when giving us your feedback, greet us in your local language and let us know your roots. All right, today I'll be speaking on an episode that I have entitled Vision. Vision, by definition, is the ability to think about or plan the future with imagination or wisdom. Dr. Enson Luesha defined it as a picture of a preferred future. In summary, vision is a mental picture of something that is not real, but that's where all reality comes from. The world we live in today comes from a vision. It was once an imagination. If you observe clearly, everything is created twice. A movie, before it's acted on, it needs a script, the first expression of the vision. A house, before it's built, there has to be architectural drawings. A company is driven by a strategic plan, an imagination of the preferred future of the company. Even for the cities that we live in, is an imagination that was first a thought presented as city plans. Back in the days, touchscreen technology was fictional as it could only be seen in movies and read in books, until an engineer in England by the name of Eric Arthur Johnson imagined and shared his crazy imagination about it in 1965. Later on, the fiction became a household name when Steve Jobs, through Apple, released the Touch iPhone in 2007. This is just one example of many things that were impossible back then, although we would go on to talk about the Wright brothers when they imagined that it was possible to fly a heavy steel in air, or when Abraham Lincoln thought he would end slave trade, and he did, or when Martin Luther King Jr. believed that America would be a free country for all, or when Henry Ford imagined of creating a car that would be affordable to all, even ordinary citizens, or even when Mahatma Gandhi believed that he would free his country with non-violent protests. Vision is a powerful tool in our life. If we are to rise, lead, and dominate, vision makes impossible possible. You dare to imagine long enough, you will achieve it, even though it looks very impossible. Like Mandela used to say, it's always impossible until it's done. To illustrate my point, let me take you down the history road during the Battle of Gaugamela, Alexander the Great versus Darius III. In 33 BC, there was a famous battle between Darius III of Persia and Alexander the Great of Macedonia. It was one of those seemingly impossible battles that made Alexander the Great the Great. Alexander had an army of 50,000 men, and he was facing an army of 1 million people from the Persian side. Until this time, it was recorded as the largest army to be gathered in person. Alexander the Great was facing an army of a ratio of 1 to 20. What Alexander the Great did to win was his mental picture of believing that he would never be defeated. Why am I emphasizing about the vision in this episode? For as the man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23 verse 7. How far you rise, lead, or dominate is primarily dependent on your vision. Your world is a reflection of how you think. It's an expression of your imagination. And if you don't have a vision, I have bad news for you. Proverbs 29:18, which says, "My people are destroyed for lack of vision. You will perish." Late Dr. Steve Covey, in his book titled An Effective Life, he gave an illustration that life is like a garden. If you don't plant the right seeds, weeds will grow and choke the good seeds. The same way, if you don't have a vision, why is the vision important? Number one, it helps to create the future that we want. Alan Kay, the American computer scientist who invented the graphic user interface, once said, "The best way to predict the future is to create it." By the way, Alan is the guy who revolutionized the use of computer. His technology was later on adopted by both Apple and Microsoft. His company was behind the invention of the mouse. If we are going to create a vibrant future, then we need to predict it with vision and create it. Number two, vision acts as the guardrail for our lives. Every man has too many desires that once given a chance they would want to pursue them. The sure way to ensure focus and growth is by building a clear, focused vision. Lewis Carroll's classic fantasy novel written in 1865 titled Alice's Adventures in Wonderland demonstrates how lack of vision only makes you move in purposeless circles. Let me share a certain part of the novel. Would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go from here? Asked Alice. That depends a good deal on where you want to get to, said the cat. I don't much care where, said Alice. Then it doesn't matter which way you go, said the cat. As long as I get somewhere, Alice responded. Today, a lot of people are like Alice in a confused world where they don't know where they are going. As a result, they just take any road provided it takes them somewhere. Mostly, somewhere is just a state of survival. A clear vision defines the action you take, people you associate with, the kind of books you read, the city you live in, etc., etc. My friend, do you have a vision for your life? Where do you see yourself in the next 10 years or 20? What legacy will you leave behind many years when you are long gone? As I reach towards the end of this week's podcast, I want to ask you a deeper question. What is your plan for the next life when everything is long and gone? Steve Jobs, probably the most innovative guy in our time, on his deathbed, he didn't know what was ahead of the next life, and he started questioning the meaning of life. You, my friend, need God. It's the only sure way to prepare for the future. What shall it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Once you have your vision set, now how do you keep your vision? When we go to cognitive psychology, it says that precepts define our thought patterns. When thoughts come together, they create an image called imagination. Imagination that is focused on becomes the vision, which later on we transfer it to the outer world through our words or action. Family. Precepts are primary drives of our vision. Let me define precepts for you. Precepts are guiding principles that come from the environment in the form of information and experience that provides the framework for making decisions. This is why when you are told something exciting, you become happy. Or when you receive some sad news, you become sad. Your mind starts to generate thoughts in those lines. Let me share you my story. In high school, I was an average student. One time, we were asked by our English teacher, Mr. Chisamba, to write a business letter. After the teacher had marked all the papers, he explained how he was disappointed with how the class had performed poorly. Only one student has done it well, and I want everyone to copy the way he has written it. To everyone's surprise, including myself, it was not Dr. Innocent Muhango who was always getting everything right. It was Mike Mkali. Yes, the average student. I watched in disbelief as the whole class copied my letter, including the last part that said, "Yours faithfully, Mike Mkali." The information and experience that I got on this day created a flame and a guardrail in my mind that the only thoughts that started moving in my mind was that I am smart. From English, my performance improved to science subjects, and during the final exam, I was in the top 5 of the best performers at my school. This family was a positive precept. On contrary, sometimes, actually many times, we receive negative precepts. I know of friends and family who had great visions during high school and college, but now live a mediocre life because they have filled themselves with negative precepts. If we are to hold on to positive precepts, that build visions, we need to consciously believe in positive precepts and deliberately move away from negative precepts. We are living in the age where information is all around us and everyone is trying to influence us, especially through social media. We are living in the age where information is all around us and everyone is trying to influence us, especially through social media. It's time you start filtering what and who you listen to. You have filtered so many pictures before. Now it's time to filter information that you take in. It's time to filter out that negativity. To my fellow Africans, it's time to dream that a rich and ascendant Africa is possible, that indeed we can rise, lead, and dominate on a global platform. I dare you to dream big. Dream like a child, without limits. Yes, friends, those crazy dreams. Lastly, here is my message for you.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, but the only thing you can't do is ignore them. Because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
Think differently. To the crazy ones, the rebels, let's go change the world. Mike Mkali, signing out.
Thank you for listening to this podcast by Godly Ascendants. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please share it with your loved ones and give us your feedback through our social media pages or write us an email at godlyascendants@gmail.com.
This podcast is sponsored by Mkali Group, Sipo Cell, and Beyond Bounds Physiotherapy Clinic.